Rohan and his best friend Samir were buzzing with excitement. It was the start of their summer holidays and they had a grand plan. They were going to visit the magnificent Bakra Nangal Dam. Their parents had told them all about it. It was a giant wall holding back a huge lake, the Gobind Sagar. The most exciting part for the boys was the special train ride. A free train just for visitors would take them on a 13-kilometer journey. The train would start from Nangal in Punjab and travel all the way to the Bakra Dam, which is in Himachal Pradesh. They could already imagine the train chugging along, with beautiful views of the hills and the Sutlej River. The morning of the trip arrived, and the sun was shining brightly. Rohan and Samir packed their small backpacks with water bottles and some snacks. They met at the Nangal railway station, their eyes wide with wonder. The train was small and looked like a toy train from a storybook. They quickly found seats by a window. As the train started moving, a cool breeze blew in, carrying the fresh scent of the mountains. They waved goodbye to their parents, promising to learn as much as they could. The journey was even better than they had imagined. They saw lush green fields, small villages, and the sparkling blue water of the river flowing beside the tracks. When they finally reached the Bakra Dam, they were speechless. It was enormous. It stood tall and strong, like a giant guarding the water. A guide met their group and started explaining how this incredible structure worked. He pointed to the massive gates and the powerhouse at the bottom of the dam. "This dam doesn't just hold water," the guide said with a smile. "It uses the power of water to create something we use every single day, electricity." Rohan and Samir looked at each other, their curiosity piqued. They had always wondered how the lights in their homes turned on with just a flick of a switch. The guide led them to a viewing gallery where they could see the powerhouse. He explained that the water from the big lake, Gobind Sagar, is released through huge pipes called penstocks. This water flows down with great force like a powerful waterfall. At the bottom, the rushing water hits large wheels with blades called turbines. The force of the water makes the turbines spin very, very fast. These spinning turbines are connected to big machines called generators. It is the job of the generator to turn this spinning movement into electricity. The boys watched, fascinated, as the guide explained this amazing process of creating hydroelectric power. Rohan raised his hand, full of questions. "Is this the only way to make electricity?" he asked. The guide smiled, happy to see their interest. "That's a great question. No, there are many ways to generate electricity. Using water is called hydroelectric power, but we can also use other natural forces." He then pointed towards the distant hills. "Imagine giant fans standing on those hills. Those are called windmills. When the wind blows, it makes the blades of the windmill spin, just like how the water spins the turbines here. This spinning motion is used to generate electricity." Samir then remembered something he had seen on the roofs of some buildings in the city. "What about those shiny blue plates that look like big tiles?" he asked. "Ah, you are talking about solar panels," the guide exclaimed. "Those are another fantastic way to create electricity. Solar panels capture the light and heat from the sun. Inside these panels, there are special materials that can turn the sunlight directly into electricity. This is called solar power. It's a very clean way to make electricity because it doesn't create any smoke or pollution. The sun gives us free energy every single day." The guide continued to explain that there are other methods as well. Sometimes we burn things like coal or natural gas to heat water and create steam. This steam then pushes a turbine, similar to how water does at this dam. This is called thermal power. He made it clear that while this method is very common, it can cause pollution. He also mentioned nuclear power, where tiny particles called atoms are split to create a huge amount of heat, which then generates electricity. The boys learned that scientists are always looking for newer and cleaner ways to power our world, using the gifts of nature. Rohan and Samir now understood that electricity wasn't just magic. It was a product of science and engineering, using the power of nature in clever ways. From the mighty force of the Sutlej River at Bakra Dam to the gentle push of the wind and the warm rays of the sun, nature provided the energy. Humans had just figured out how to capture it and turn it into the electricity that travels through wires to our homes. Their trip to the dam was becoming a real adventure in learning, opening their eyes to the science all around them. On their train ride back to Nangal, Rohan and Samir started talking about all the things they used at home that needed electricity. "The first thing I do in the morning is switch on the light in my room," Rohan said. "And my dad uses an electric shaver. My mom uses a mixer grinder in the kitchen to make chutneys and milkshakes, and we all watch cartoons on the television in the evening. He realized that his day was filled with things that ran on the power that was being made at the very dam they had just visited. It was an amazing thought. Samir added to the list, "Don't forget the refrigerator that keeps our food fresh and our water cold, and the fan that keeps us cool when it's hot. On very hot days, we use the air conditioner." He thought about his school. Even at school, the computers in our computer lab need electricity, and the bell that rings to tell us when classes start and end is an electric bell. We use electricity almost everywhere, all the time. It's hard to imagine a day without it. They both agreed that life would be very different and much more difficult without this invisible power. The boys started to look at the world outside their train window differently. They saw electric poles lining the roads with thick black wires stretching for miles. The guide had told them that these wires were like roads for electricity, carrying it from the powerhouses to cities and villages. These wires are part of a huge network called the power grid. It ensures that the electricity generated at places like Bakra Dam can reach homes, schools, hospitals, and factories far, far away. Every light, fan, and machine was connected to this giant network. When they got home, the first thing Rohan did was look around his house. He saw the washing machine that cleaned their clothes, the microwave that heated their food, and the water pump that filled the tank on their roof. He even noticed the tiny red light on the TV that showed it was getting power. Electricity was not just for big things, it was for small things too. It helped people work, study, cook, and have fun. It was a silent helper, always there, making life easier and more comfortable for everyone. That night, there was a brief power cut in Rohan's neighborhood. The lights went out, and everything became dark and quiet. Rohan's father brought out a torch. As he flicked a small switch on its side, a bright beam of light cut through the darkness. Remembering his trip, Rohan became curious. "Dad, how does this torch work without being plugged into a socket?" he asked. His father smiled and decided it was the perfect time for another lesson about electricity. He opened the back of the torch to show Rohan what was inside. "Look here," his father said, pointing to two small cylinder-shaped objects. "These are electric cells. When you have two or more cells together, it's called a battery. Think of a cell as a tiny powerhouse. It stores chemical energy and can turn it into electrical energy." He showed Rohan the plus and minus signs on the cells. Electricity flows from the negative end to the positive end, but only when it has a complete path to travel on. This path is called an electric circuit. He pointed to the small bulb at the front of the torch. "This is the electric lamp, or what we now often call an LED, which stands for light-emitting diode. It's the part that glows and gives us light," his father explained. "For the LED to light up, the electricity from the battery needs to reach it. This is where the switch becomes very important." He showed Rohan the small button on the side of the torch. When you push the switch to the on position, it connects the wires inside. It completes the circuit. This allows electricity to flow from the battery through the switch to the LED and back to the battery, making the LED light up. "And when you push the switch to the off position," he continued, "it creates a gap in the path. This breaks the circuit, the electricity can no longer flow, so the LED turns off. The switch acts like a small, removable bridge for electricity." Rohan finally understood. The torch was a simple, self-contained electric circuit. It had its own power source, the battery, a device that used the power, the LED, and a controller, the switch. The boy's trip to the massive Bakra Dam had helped him understand even the smallest of electric gadgets. From a giant dam to a small torch, the principles of electricity were the same.